So tell us about the path of the visionary.
Okay, the path of the visionary walks the path of change. She is the air clan goddess. So we started with earth from the warrioress, then we moved to the water of the queen, and now we're going to clear the mind and get very, very clear and focused with the mind, with the visionary. Because in order to have clear vision, you have to cut away the confusion and our scattered mind and get very clear with your mind. Now that's hard for women in our culture because we're on our iPhones and we're on our iPads and we're distracted a lot. We're doing way too many things, and so we want to get very focused. The visionary helps a woman to with the sword of clarity to cut away all that confusion, all that distraction, and get almost Zen-like in the mind. And then we can command the winds of change to make changes necessary to blow new life into the village or into our lives. So it's kind of I think the visionary is a little complex because it's the path of change, but we're trying to get really clear and still almost in our mind.
It's a real departure from the emotions of the queen, then.
Right, so the visionary is much more objective. The visionary does not get caught up in emotional turmoil. And so in a way, she's more objective. But that makes sense as an air. She needs to be clear in her mind. So she has to move away from getting overwhelmed with emotions. So one of the wonderful gifts of the visionary is to have objectivity, to have a little distance in objectivity. But when you can do that, it's like you can then fly in the air, be more objective, and kind of look at the whole situation to get a much bigger perspective.
Yes, I was thinking you'd have a bigger picture, more
She has a
grand view.
She has a much bigger picture. And also in the visionary training, we're taught to open our intuition and to look up at the stars and to get the perspective of something that's much bigger than our petty little concerns that we do every day.
More about the collective.
Yes, so thinking about collective evolution and what needs to change, both in the culture, but what needs to change in me, what needs to change in you. So the visionary helps us to change our belief systems that limit us from connecting with spirit. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I have so many belief systems that actually limit the way I'm connecting to spirit and connecting to my own spiritual authority. So with that sort of clarity, the visionary she can just cut away the cobwebs and the confusion. And then at the end of the visionary training, we learn exactly how to visualize and envision the change that we want. It's a very powerful initiation.
So I was going to ask, and you just answered some of it, about when you would call upon the visionary, at what points in your life you might call her up.
Okay, so you call her up when you need to be objective, when you need to be clear-headed, when you need to make a decision about something. Also, if you're noticing that something needs to change, okay, the visionary is the master of the winds of change. So if you need to change something in your life, and suddenly you just have to make that move, the visionary is very helpful in that way.
So Megan, what is the shadow path of the visionary?
The shadow path of the visionary walks the path of chaos. And that makes sense to me because it's the opposite of being clear-minded. Okay, and I know so many women who are walking around in chaos. They're way too busy. They're totally distracted. They can't make decisions. They forget what they were doing. And so the shadow path of chaos is women who literally have a tornado blowing around them. And they create chaos wherever they go. So the archetype of this path is called the saboteur. And what I find is that women who are on the shadow path of chaos keep sabotaging themselves. Instead of changing their lives, because it's the path of change, they keep trying to change or failing to change because they are sabotaging themselves to not really become the powerful women that they can be. So maybe they're afraid of their power, but they walk around with a lot of chaos, a lot of distraction. They're unfocused. And a lot of these women don't believe in themselves. They've lost themselves in a lot of self-doubt. And so taking that sword of clarity that the visionary has, she can just cut through all of that chaos. But the saboteur is so sneaky because as soon as a woman just wants to change or change her life or do her spiritual practices, the saboteur will come in, and then she'll create more chaos in her life. So it's really a dangerous path, actually. And also another big thing that I think we struggle with in our culture is that we have a lot of monkey mind, they call it, a lot of mind chatter, a lot of critical chatter, that we criticize ourselves, or are way too scattered in our thinking. And so that's part of the shadow path. So getting that sort of clarity out and trying to get back on that visionary path so we can be very, very clear, and learning to trust our intuition and make the changes that we need to make.